Hi everyone, I apologize for taking so long to get this video together, but the reason is I've been out riding with the top secret classified Shoei helmet, which turned out to be this beauty right here, the brand new RF-1400. And what a job they've done with this. I wanted to hold off doing the video until I really knew what to make of this. And I've only logged about 300 miles at this point, which is easily half of what I typically use to judge a helmet. But it's winter and we had a brief window of good weather, so I took it. And my review is actually live on the site right now. So if you want the full deal, go and check that out. What I'm going to do with the video is just give you a basic rundown of some of it and show you a few things which come across easier visually and with me explaining it rather than writing. And first of all, let me show you, here is the empty box. And here is the bag. What do you get in the bag? Well, you get a Pinlock Evo, you get a nice carrying bag like this, the usual Shoei silicone grease, which is for lubing up the visor seal, a couple of Shoei stickers. You don't get two visors with it, you just get one, which is this one here, the CWR F2 visor. And you get all of this for $4.99 for this solid colored one. It's $5.99 for the graphic rich ones. The 1400 will come in 4 shell sizes, which means you're going to have very nice compact helmet regardless of which size you pick. This is the large, and it's not typical for me to go with that. Usually I end up with a medium because I have a 23-inch circumference head or 58.42 centimeters. And I fall right between medium and large. I know I'm not the only one. I know there are lots of other people with that same issue, and you kind of, it's a guess, like, do you go smaller, do you go bigger? I went larger this time mainly because Shoei only had some larges left. They were very limited run for this media launch of the RF-1400, and so far it's been a really good thing. It fits me really well out of the box, much more comfortable out of the box than the mediums are. They tend to really be tight. Shoei likes tight, snug padding on the inside, and that is ideal. You want a helmet to fit you uniformly all around your skull and face as much as possible so that there's no movement in a crash or an impact. What I found is after 300 miles, the interior liner did give a little bit, but where I'm feeling it give is in the front here. What I've done is lately I've taken to wearing this helmet liner, something I just got off Amazon for cheap, and it's about 2 millimeters thick. That took up the gap perfectly, and now this large fits me awesome, just bang on. There is a little bit of tightness here on the sides of my face and orbital area. It's okay though. I think I might try maybe a little bit thicker crown pad, but overall the shape of this helmet surprises me. It's got a wider fit or wider shape across the upper area here than, say, the GT-Air for sure, which I find very narrow. GT-Air 2 also is slightly wider than the GT-Air. The Neotech is close to this one. I would say somewhere in between the GT-Air 2 and this, but this one is by far the widest right from factory. It could also just be the large size coming into play with that. A much better fit for me, much easier to pull it on over my head through this newly designed neck roll and opening. This actually is one of the cool new features about this helmet. The cheek pad down here, this part, if you slide your hand inside here, there's more of a pocket, so it's got a dish shape, and it really molds nicely to my jawline. The way that they've managed to keep it from eventually falling out or giving too much is this wild little padding or reinforcing area here. I mean, it looks kind of weird, but actually this is a hard plastic bit, and this is a softer but firmer covering over a harder shim. It's like a wedge to keep that pressure where you want it on this neck roll / cheek pad area. So the fit is really nice, and that combined with this chin skirt, which also comes with the helmet, gives you a much quieter fit. What's interesting is when I slide the helmet on, there's quite an opening right when you get past this neck roll and the cheek pad, and my ears are free and clear, like nothing's touching them inside the helmet, which is very comfortable. And there are speaker pockets in here for your speakers, for Senas or Cardos or whatever you like to have. And that gap or that pocket for your ears to sit in theory should make it louder out on the road, but it doesn't. The thing that's changed the most about the RF-1400 versus the 1200 that it replaces is the shape of the shell here. Now, I don't have a 1200 unfortunately, but the angles on this rear spoiler are different. The height of the back of the helmet is higher, lower in the front. The vents are completely redesigned. Other than these side ones, I guess they're still similar to what is on the 1200. I haven't worn a 1200, but I've heard lots of things about it from people who have. It's one of Shoei's more popular helmets for good reason if it's anything like this. So what they've done with the redesign of the shell and everything on the outside here is geared around making the helmet quieter and making it slice through the air better, right down to the shape of the base plates here. They've completely changed these from the 1200. It's narrower and it's swept back, and even the design of it has changed quite significantly. What you'll also see is the pin lock mounts are moved much further back, so that when you're looking out of the eye port here, it's brought back further so that you don't have helmet in your peripheral vision, and you don't even have the pin lock mounts in your peripheral vision. I tried, and I have to look hard to left or right in order to even see these when I'm wearing the helmet. The eye port is much improved. It's almost as good as my adventure helmets, which I think have the widest field of view for obvious reasons. When you're out off-road, you need to see stuff coming at you quickly over uneven terrain. This is just as quiet as the quietest helmet I've ever worn, the Shoei GT-Air. And I think there's a lot of confusion about loud helmet versus quiet helmet. And people have mentioned on some of my reviews before, I tried this helmet you said was quiet, and it's not. So let me explain. When I test a helmet for noise, I don't do it sitting behind my windshield where I would normally ride, because you're getting lots of turbulent air off of the bike. So try this. Stand up on your foot pegs. Get your head up above the turbulent air coming off of the bike into clean air or free-flowing straight at you air, and that's how I gauge how noisy a helmet is, because your bike is variable. All bikes have different degrees to which they change the air as it hits your helmet. And when I'm up in there, honestly, the only thing that I hear is my bike, my tires, and a very, very subdued sound. There's no whistling, there's no high-pitched, sharp hissing or roaring or booming. There's nothing. And the really impressive part is it doesn't matter what position I hold my head in. So if you're riding a sport bike in this position, it's quiet. If you're riding a standard like this, it's the same. You turn your head left, right, whatever, it's all the same. It's only when you get really radical with it, maybe at this angle, that you change the sound. That is just brilliant, the way that they've done this. They've obviously spent a lot of time in the wind tunnel with this. What they're claiming is, as it says on this visor, the lift has been reduced 6% and the drag has been reduced 4%. That's imperceptible in my opinion. I don't think anybody could go out there and say, oh yeah, this is like 6 or 10%. That's what they've picked up for numbers that they've measured in their wind tunnel. For me, out on the road, I don't notice any lift, minimal drag. It's got no pull left or right. It's like a knife. It is just slicing through the air. And I don't wear earplugs when I'm out on the road. I know a lot of people do, and probably I'll get a lecture about not doing it, but that allows me to really pick up on it. It's maybe the quietest helmet in production, in my opinion. Ventilation. It's been told to me that the 1200 had very good ventilation, and I believe it. I would say that this is above average, this 1400 as far as venting. Shoei is claiming that you're going to get more air in the top here. So these are the 3 top vents, and there are nice size openings, and the airflow is good. I would say above average on the upper area. The lower airflow that comes in here is less turbulent rather than in the 1200, and it is very smooth. There's a nice amount coming up to clear any fogging on the visor, and I find I haven't actually installed the pin lock yet. If you look in here, you'll see it's pin lock free because it is clearer without the pin lock. I've been riding in cold weather, 50 Fahrenheit or 8 Celsius. That's the best we could do right now. And it does fog up when I stop in traffic or at a light, something like that. But it clears just by cracking open the visor a little bit, even at a standstill. And once I move even slowly, it's gone. So I'm really impressed with the airflow for clearing that and for keeping me cool. With cold air, of course, you're going to notice air coming in a lot more than if it's hot. It's not going to be the best on the market for airflow, but certainly adequate. Even in very hot weather, this is going to cool you adequately. It's not going to be a concern. Let me talk a little bit more about this new visor that they've got. One of the other big changes is the center release switch for the visor. It used to be over here, and you'd have to do one of these to open it. So Shoei looked at that and said that what they were seeing was uneven stress on the visors, which was causing them to leak over time. So instead of reaching here when you're out riding, you just reach about 2 inches further and pop that open. I don't think that's a big deal. Some people don't like it, but the locking mechanism is really nice on this. Not noisy. The visor is relatively quiet. I'll stop talking so you can hear it. Comparatively speaking to a lot of visors, especially lower priced ones, that's really smooth and quiet. Not the quietest I've encountered, but quieter than say the GT-Air. Not as quiet as this guy. I know Shoei's gonna love me putting an Arai helmet in their video, but listen to this one comparatively. When you're wearing it is when you really notice it echoing, going dunk, dunk, dunk inside of your headspace. So again, here's the neck roll opening, and you can see that you've got a double D-ring chin strap. I notice this flap of material kind of has a habit of getting out of place when I put it on. Not a big deal though, not at all. What is a bit of a concern about this helmet for me is this this wedge system is right where I want to mount the clamp-on Bluetooth communicator like a Sena or Cardo, and it's just not going to work. Further to that, this area is so thin here, and it's got ridging or beveling. You would have to end up mounting it right up here, which, I mean, it might work, but again, it would be bothersome not to have it here where I'm used to. So I talked to Shoei about that, and they are coming out with a RF-1400 specific mounting bracket. It should be available in the spring, April, May, something like that. The other thing, I asked them, since there is no drop-down sun visor on the inside, like the lenses that drop down, if you don't want to buy this tinted visor, you can get a transitions visor, again, in the spring. They've said they're going to come out with that, which I would recommend, even though it is very expensive. I think the one for the Hornet X2 is about $200. But if you want flexibility, that's the way to go. If you want to go on the less expensive side, then just get this guy here. It's not dark enough for, say, riding in the desert, but it's dark enough that it does take the edge off the bright sun, and I would prefer it to be on the lighter side of tint, because a couple of times I've been caught out later than I thought and had to ride home in the dark with a heavily tinted visor. It's not even legal in some places like the UK, and it's dangerous regardless of whether it's legal or not. So I'm a big fan of the transitions lenses. The vents, I noticed these actually are 3-position. Like, you can see there's closed, it's hard to do. This is what I'm talking about. So there's position 1, there's position 2 fully open. I have real trouble, especially when I'm wearing it, to get it into position 1. It basically turns into all the way open. Also, these side ones are like that. They could improve on it. I think they have better venting mechanisms on the GT-Air, GT-Air 2, This one down here, same deal. There's position 1, there's 2. Not a huge deal for me. I generally have them open or closed, and even with the vents closed, you are still getting airflow entering the helmet to keep the visor clear. Shoei has a brand new seal. They call it beading now. It is like a curved or tubular shape, and they have a couple of drains for air or moisture, whatever gets in there. It's nice. I can show you. Here's a GT-Air. You can see it has the side mounted opening switch. This has a lip seal, like a double lip seal, as opposed to a rounded bead. One interesting thing I would point out about the new base plate is this little switch right here. This is actually something that you can, if you find the visor isn't sealing properly or as much as you'd like, you can throw that switch down, and there's one on either side. I would suggest doing them evenly. And then what it says will happen is it pulls in the visor a little bit more to give a better seal. So I haven't been able to rain test this one, as I would always do. But what I did was I ran it under the tap with water gushing on it as much as possible. And what I find is that about 99% of the helmets I test leak to one degree or another when you do that, and even when you ride in the rain. This one did. It did leak a little bit. I believe it was at the bottom, actually. But I mean, I had like water almost pooling on it. So I think in a real world scenario where it's raining, it might not leak. But I didn't try it with those levers thrown into the tighter or pulled in position. There's another real nice aspect to this helmet as far as safety. The Snell M2020D homologation that it has passed. That counts for a lot in my mind. M2020D is more or less the same as M2015, which was the previous standard. But Snell always boosts things a little bit each time, or changes things to better reflect discoveries that they've made about crash protection. For a Snell certified helmet, this is very light. It's 3.7 pounds, which is 1,706 grams. More to that point, the way that they've built this helmet keeps the center of gravity lower in the helmet and also centered, so that you're not feeling like you're unbalanced or bobble-headed. It feels much lighter. If they had built this out of carbon fiber, I have no doubt it would be right around that 3-pound mark, even for a large, which is substantial. But Shoei addressed this question in their media release. They said that a carbon fiber shell doesn't have the exact degree of flex that they look for to give you the protection that you need. So I don't blame them for going with the usual multiply fiberglass with organic fiber mix that they use. This is easily one of the top helmets that I've ever tested for the price, and I would really recommend it to anyone who's looking for a good new full face. You're not going to be unhappy with this unless you really need those drop down sun lenses or sunglasses. I did try wearing sunglasses in the helmet, and I didn't have any trouble with the stems or anything. So Shoei has really done a great job with all aspects of this upgrade of the RF-1200. It's interesting that they skipped RF-1300. I guess it's an unlucky number for them or anyone else. I rated it at a 97% for overall scoring, and that's actually higher than I rated the GT-Air 2, which is another helmet that I'm a big fan of. This one mainly wins because of that Snell homologation. I can't stress enough how much I appreciate that. That's in a nutshell what you need to know about the RF-1400, and keep an eye on my review in the spring, because then I'll be able to get out on the bike and test it even more, get you some more insight. But at this point, I'm sold. This one will be a helmet that I wear regularly. If I'm not riding adventure, boy, this one is right there. I still love my Arai DTX. The fit is actually a little more comfortable for me on the interior, but only slightly. And the eye port is not near as big, the view not near as good out of the helmet as on this one. So it'll be a toss-up, like a game time decision for me as I climb onto the bike, which helmet I throw on, because The DTX has been my helmet of choice up until this came into my life.